think that's the signal for us to start. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Those who had to endure my talking last night, I apologize, you've got me again tonight. Tomorrow there will be someone different. To those who weren't here, welcome. I'm just, by way of an introduction, I might just tell you a little bit about what we actually did last night. I work for a foundation, it's called the International Foundation for Muslim Theology. And our main aim is to bring God talk back into the center of human life and human concern, because over the past 500 years our societies have become, in the West at least, completely secularized. Also in the Muslim world we have become secularized through colonization, through cultural colonization, and also through our own negligence. So what was I going to say? The important thing is that we bring God back into the center of affairs. We bring Allah back into the center of human affairs. And our most important audience actually is not non-believers. It's quite easy to talk to non-believers about these things. You can get straight answers from them. But it's very difficult to talk to Muslims who are not aware of the subtleties or of even the root realities of our deen, which we find in the Risale-i-Nur. And of course, Risale-i-Nur here, I have absolutely no problem now being in this company saying that this is the basis of our theology in this century. Because this is a book of Tajdeed. Hazrat Ustad was a Mujaddid for this century, and possibly until Akhir Zaman, we don't know. The point is, trying to explain the Risale-i-Nur without actually mentioning Sayyid Nursi's name every 2 minutes is not easy. But when people actually realize the truths and realities of the Risale-i-Nur, it hits them in two places. It hits them in their rational intellect, and it hits them in their intuitive intellect. If they have the right approach, then there is no way that they can reject. Even though Ustad's language sometimes is off-putting to people, particularly in translation, but also in original. When you start talking about the names of God, people instantly, most Muslims instantly think, right, 99 names of God. We know that if we recite the 99 names of God, we go to Jannah. But apart from that, nothing. And we know that the whole of the universe is constructed on the names of Allah. You know, Imam Ali alayhi salam said, the universe is constructed on the names of God. They are the pillars which hold up the creation. We find the word Allah is mentioned over 3,000 times in the Quran, and there are hundreds and hundreds of His names also scattered throughout the Quran. I say scattered, I don't mean randomly, obviously, but you know, you can find them everywhere. And Ustad's theology, as far as we can say that he's a theologian, it's the theology of the names. Now, I'm telling you, those who know the Risale know this, right? You're aware of this. But Muslims outside don't realize that we have to engage with the divine names at all times. We are now, as we're sitting here and I'm speaking and you're listening, we are engaging with Allah's names. Because wherever you look in the creation, there is the face of Allah, right? Wajhullah is everywhere. And as we said last night, it's Allah's ID. How do we know who He is? By His names, through His names, through the creation. So we have two books. We have Kitab al-Kainat and we have Quran, and they correlate. And we also have a Fitra, which also correlates with that. And we also have the prophets who also correlate with this. So it shouldn't be shocking for people when you go to them in a class and start talking about Allah's names and how they manifest in creation. But you will be surprised how many times we as a foundation go into Islamic schools and start talking about God's names and how do we understand God's names and how are God's names relevant to us and how do we engage with God's names, how do we reflect God's names consciously. They look at you as though you're talking about a different deen, a different religion. So our biggest problem, unfortunately, is not atheists. If you go on Google, you find all of the Google sheikhs debating with Christians, and and atheists, and it's a waste of time really, because our most important audience is our own people, right? Our own fellow Muslims. And there is a module that we teach, actually distance for Üsküdar University, but not just for Üsküdar University, which is called Reading Said Nursi, Reading the Creation. And it's quite opposite that Abdullah read from Iqra, right, in the prayer. Because the very first word that came to the Prophet ﷺ was Iqra. And he said, how should I Iqra? I'm not going to say read, because I don't think Iqra is just read. Iqra for me as well is interpret. How should I read? How should I interpret? Because there was nothing for him to read physically. And the response, Abdullah, was? Okay, read in the name of your Lord. In other words, read the creation in the name of your Lord. Because if you don't read the creation as a manifestation of divine names, it doesn't mean anything. What does it mean? What does the creation mean? If it doesn't indicate Allah, what does it indicate? It doesn't indicate anything. And when our foundation goes, and not just our foundation, because we have also collaborators from other organizations, when we go to Muslim teachers in Islamic schools and we start talking about these things, they think that there's something very, very alien. Because our education systems are broken. Western education, secular education systems are broken, and unfortunately, the Islamic school system in most countries is also broken. Because as we were saying last night, an Islamic education in most cases is you just teach from Western textbooks. So you're teaching physics, for example, you're teaching a curriculum which was devised, say, in Cambridge. Recently I was in Malaysia, and there they use the Cambridge curriculum. So they're using textbooks that have been written by secularists and usually atheists, and it's full of, unsubstantiated assertions, it's full of half-truths, it's full of untested hypotheses, and the way that it presents science is completely materialistic. And what they do to make it Islamic, occasionally they throw a hadith in, right? Or they throw an ayah in. If they're talking about how the rain cycle works, they may bring an ayah in about the rain, that everything comes from the sama. And that's, for them, is Islamic education. There's not very much Islamic about it at all, unfortunately, and it's not their fault, because they are the victims of secular education. I don't say that they are the children of secular education, they are the victims of secular education, because we are victims of it. The public education system in the UK is no older than 130 years. It was 130 years ago that everyone was forced to go to school because they needed people to work, to be able to work in factories. It was after the Industrial Revolution. So it wasn't sort of a kind of, very compassionate move on the part of the establishment to educate people. They needed workers. And those who governed the country were educated separately in very, very high-flying schools, which still exist actually. There are schools in England called, Muhammad will know, Eton. Places like Eton, where most of the prime ministers of England are educated at Eton, away from the masses. And the masses are educated in order to become consumers and workers. So the education systems are broken. And unfortunately, the Islamic education system is also broken because God isn't mentioned. God isn't mentioned. I asked these really lovely people, these lovely teachers, well-meaning, compassionate teachers, do you talk about God in your classes? No. No. They thought they were doing really well by just occasionally adding a hadith or adding an ayah, but God is never mentioned. So where is this Islamic education? So we devised a module called Reading Said Nursi, Reading the Creation, because Ustad reads the creation, and we read him reading the creation, right? So that's one module that's run now for about 4 or 5 years. It runs online, it's a hybrid course. And then a couple of years ago, one of our collaborators said, why don't you devise a course that's just on the divine names? And so we did. Because, you know, the divine names are not just things that you find in a hadith and you recite and then you imagine you'll go to Jannah. The hadith is correct. If you read those names in the sense of interpret them and internalize them and live them and reflect them, then you will become Jannati, right? You'll become a heavenly person. But just reading them, you know, I can tape them and just let the tape read them, you know. It's the same effect. So we devised the module. I don't want to talk about too much about the module because I'm already taken a lot of time. And I thought I would just choose one of the names, and you probably recognize it's from the 30th flash. And it's a name that I had problems with for years because, I mean, I use the word holy. We use it in English all the time, right? In a liturgical sense. I never really knew what it meant. What does holy mean? So then I had to do a deep dive into Risale, and particularly into the 30th flash. And you have to forgive me, this is like a work in progress because I'm still learning what Quddus is. And I'm going to make this a bit more interactive so I can get your ideas as well. So we trialed it last year and it was a very successful module and they loved it. But I mean, you can never tell. Every year students are different, so this year they may hate it, but we'll see. So Al-Quddus, what we started off, if you could go to the first slide. This is the interactive bit. What do you think of when you hear the name Al-Quddus or the Holy? What do you understand by holiness? So I'm going to put you on the spot, as I put my students on the spot. And they can pretend it's because it's by Zoom. They can pretend that their computer's faulty, you know, or they're away from their computer and they don't answer. But you have no escape. So I want you to tell me what you think of. I won't pick on you. I'll expect you to volunteer, Mohammed. What do you think of when you hear the name Al-Quddus? Anyway. What do you understand by holiness?
Something from God.
Okay.
Sorry, my connection is not good.
Turn your camera off then.
Holy connections.
What do you understand by holiness? This is not a trick question because I have to admit I have a very sort of frail grasp on the word because it's not an easy word.
What comes in my mind is something spiritual, not materialistic or something related to this abstract things.
So from the literal sense, like kind of sacred.
Okay, but that's a bit circular, Omar.
Spring.
What's sacred?
Spring being. Spring.
Supreme? Yeah. I'm saying yes, but I mean this.
It's kind of like an umbrella word. It can hold many definitions under it, I'm assuming.
Can you tell us about those definitions?
Holy.
Anyone? If someone says Allah is Al-Quddus,
Purity and immaculateness.
purity and immaculateness, spot on.
Did you Google it?
Have you read the lecture? You can come and give the rest of it. Yeah.
I think,
Holiness. Yeah.
I think Ahmed Ali's suggestion is very good because you think about these words, right? So, sacred, holy, the opposite of profane, extreme, superlative purity, right? But I think immaculateness is very good. Now, what does it mean, right? So,
what does immaculate mean? Yeah.
Beyond fiction.
Untouched or untouchable.
Beyond
Untouchable.
fiction.
Untouchable, or is
unseen
not
to the greatest extreme.
affected by outside influence.
Okay. We're getting warmer now.
Like
Yeah,
We're getting warmer now. Any other ideas when you hear
Kemal as well.
Quddus? We read it all the time in the ayat. We'll see.
Kemal. about Kemal, the most completed.
Yeah. Okay. That's yeah. I think you're right with your umbrella.
Yeah.
It holds a lot. Under it, yeah.
I think of a word that, unsullied, something that is,
That's wonderful.
yeah, so, okay, because, one strategy that people use is you examine the usage, right, of words, right, so you go back, this is what Arabic dictionaries, for instance, they would do, they would just throw you back to usage, right, so they'd say, so-and-so poet of the Jahili period, he used like this, he said like this, for instance, right? And so you get a sense of the meaning, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that some normal, natural, worldly thing can become sacred, right? So how does that happen, right? It's, say for instance, something is worn by somebody chosen by Allah. Right, for example, right? Something designated by Allah Ta'ala, then it is removed from sort of nature and it becomes super special.
And
super
justice and equality.
I'm not sure about justice and equality. I'm sure they're all subsumed under the same label at some point, but purity is the word that jumped out because Hazrat Ustad in the 30th Flash, basically, he talks about one aspect of holiness, right? And he focuses on purity. Now, if I were to say we live in a representational universe,
yeah, and that purity is just not a physical purity from something. It's the one which is munazzah, I don't know.
yes,
Munazzah from any deficiency,
excellent.
any lack of, like anything.
Yes.
So just perfect.
Okay, my work here is done. That's the rest of the lecture. No, the point is, we live in a representational universe. What does that mean?
That is pointing to.
Also, what is water? What does it represent?
Just label things.
Yeah,
Don't know
it
the
represents also Rahman, right? Razaqiyah. So water, what is water? I mean, in and of itself, it's nothing. It represents something. So we live in a symbolic universe. And I was saying yesterday that when we use the word symbolic, people get frightened of it because they think, oh, this is something either philosophical or the sophistic or something weird. But we live in a symbolic universe, Rahma, the womb of a woman is Rahma, it's pure Rahma. Right? Rahim, it's called Rahim. So it symbolizes something, right? If you look at the tree and if you look at the human lung, they are representational. They are bringing in air, right? We're bringing in breath through our lungs and we breathe in and we breathe out. And you notice that the tree looks exactly like the human lung. So there is a correlation between us and both of these entities are representational. They represent the inward breath and the outward breath, right? And what is breath? Ruh. Or nafs even. They come from the similar roots. Nafasa and rah. So holiness, to grasp holiness, we need a representation of it. And Ahmad gave us the word purity. And this is what Sayyid Nursi focuses on. And Mehmet said that, okay, when we say purity, we don't mean physical purity, but actually we do also mean physical purity.
Not only.
Not only.
Yeah,
Right. Why do we wash? Why do we take wudu 5 times a day? Or twice a day, or 3 times a day, or... Okay, we're taking off the external, whatever it is, dust or dirt or everything. This is a ritual act, right? It's a ritual, and rituals always have meaning. Rituals are always symbolic. They always mean something. Even unbelievers have rituals, right?
Yes, we do.
Every day, full of rituals. They have a very intense fep, even more intense than the Jewish fep. They have rituals, and rituals always mean something. So if we go to the next slide.
Hocam, impervasiveness can it be also one aspect of holiness? Not being affected.
Yes.
Like
Imperviousness.
Impervious.
I would imagine. I'm sorry, it's very small. Yeah, if you can read it. Thank you.
الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون.
So we have Quddus here. This is a Quranic use of Quddus. So we have names which come together. Someone today was talking about in another session. I can't remember who it was. Remind me, someone?
About what?
Maybe you were talking about in Quran. There is the story. There is a story of, for example, Yusuf alayhi salam or another prophet, and then we get the names mentioned. Do you remember?
It was Alpha and
It was Alpa. Is it here?
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you. Yes. Sorry. I thought you said it was Alpa. But his connection is good.
It's disconnected, yeah.
We have another use. Tarek, do the honors.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والله الذي لا إله إلا هو.
Oh, it's the same one. Right.
Same
so
one, same
next
one.
one. Sorry, next one. There should be another Quranic use. That's even smaller. It was talking
سبح
about.
لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم.
So these four names come together, and obviously they don't come together randomly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can interpret them and you can make your own extrapolations from them as to what you think they mean. He's the Malik, he's the master, right? And a master, to be a master, has to be absolutely impervious to any kind of extraneous effect. He has to be absolutely in control. And Al-Aziz, you have to have Izzah to be a master who is also pure. And Al-Hakim, there is a wisdom in everything that that master does, and so there's no flaw in the wisdom. So, as in the Quran, in the Risalah, things are not done randomly. So we know that the Quranic use of Al-Quddus. So what is the etymology? For this I am indebted to Lane's Arabic Lexicon. I don't know if anyone uses it, you use it. Which is, it's not bad. It's not bad. So the verb, the root, the triliteral Arabic root is qadasa, and it means to go or move far away. To go or move far away.
To go.
To go far away, or to move far away.
In what sense though?
It's removed.
Yeah, precisely. What's the furthest away thing that we can think of?
Stars.
Not physically.
Oblivion.
Yes.
Far enough to be
Yeah,
touched.
Allah, right?
Far away from imperfection.
Far away from imperfection.
External
For
distance.
absolutely far away from imperfection.
To becoming distant to anything else.
Yes. And also absolutely other.
The other from a completely
The other, completely other, completely other.
The one who is not similar to them.
The one who is not similar to anything,
Yeah.
right? So you see something that you don't understand, and it's far away from your cognitive ability to understand it. So I don't get it. It's too. In Farsi we say as zehn dure. It's dur from zehn. It's far away from your zehn. In English, people don't say it's far away. They like to think they understand everything. So to go or to move far away. So you've all got the idea of farness, right? And being other, completely removed from anything imaginable. Untouchable, yes, unfathomable. There's also taqdis. These are different words which are derived from qadasa, to make holy or to make sacred. I have a bit of a problem with sacralization, but we can make anything point to Allah in our behaviors, right? So when we were talking about the so-called secular life, like you go to Friday prayer or you do your namaz in the masjid, and then you go out to the shops to buy food. Now, going to the shops to buy food is not a worldly thing. It is if that's all you're doing it for and you don't connect it to Allah. But you can make taqdis of that action by connecting it to Allah, and you're going shopping and you're doing it with awareness that the food is coming from Allah, is being created directly by Him. You're going to the shop for your family because you're responsible for your family. That whole action becomes a worship, an act of worship. So you can make taqdis. You talked about profane, Abdullah, right? You can, if you go to the shop because you just want to buy chocolate and then gorge yourself and you don't care about anyone else, then that's profane. It's for the sake of the nafs, but you can make it point to the sacred rather than secularize it. Did someone have a comment?
I reminded, it reminds me the Bismillah test, the first test.
All right.
Yeah.
Muqaddas, holy or sacred, of course, we have muqaddasat, things that we know that explicitly indicate Allah. Everything actually is muqaddas. Because if kullul ard masjidullah, right? If the whole of the earth is Allah's masjid, then everything actually has the ability to be seen as muqaddas, pointing to Allah. And then there is qaddasa, to purify, to make holy, to declare something holy or sacred. So that's the etymology. We can go to the next one. There is taqaddasa, which is the fifth form, to declare something to be above all that is evil. Now everyone here was mentioning those kinds of understandings of Quddus. Far from untouchable, impervious, far from being imperfect. And then there is books, of course, and then there is muqaddas. So you know these better than I do. Next one, please. There is a book which I read. I thought it would help me understand holiness. Have you read it? I've got to read it again because I didn't completely understand it. It's German but translated into English, which is actually better than French translated into English, especially if it's French philosophy, which is just... anyway, you can't go there. But Rudolf Otto helped me a little bit to understand. He says it's not just a moral quality, but it's a non-rational aspect, what he calls the numinous. In other words, it's not a rational thing. You can't... when I say non-rational, I don't mean irrational. Love is non-rational. What do I mean by that? When I say it's non-rational?
Placed by different rules,
You can't demonstrate love demonstrably in an experiment.
Not testable.
It's not testable.
Calculate.
Yes, yeah, excellent.
Cannot calculate.
It's not, yeah, it's incalculable. It's not visible. Expressions of love are visible. Love isn't visible. So it's not rational. It's not demonstrably. It's not empirically demonstrable. In other words, you can't go into a laboratory and say, right, I'm going to do an experiment to show you a kilo of love, right? It's just not possible.
Not measurable.
It's not measurable. It's not quantifiable either. Even though you say, I love you a lot, but what does it mean, a lot?
How much?
Yeah, how much? Show me how much.
This is a question to confuse kids.
Yes. So it's not just a moral quality. He says it's a transcendent quality. He says the numinous is a feeling or experience of awe, wonder and mystery that is evoked by the presence of the holy. Now, this is a bit of a circular explanation because he hasn't actually told us, he's saying the numinous, that holy is this feeling of awe that you get. When you think of something that's so other, that's so different, that's so far away and yet so close, right? So far away and so close that it gives you this awe, this wonder. And sometimes you think about it and the hairs on your neck stand up. We get this a lot. These feelings are not physical feelings, by the way. These are malakuti feelings. Because holiness is a malakuti quality. All non-rational things are malakuti, such as dreams, such as malaika, such as love, such as hate, such as anger. All of our lata'if, all of our subtle faculties are malakuti, because we are stretched between mulk and malakut. We are part in mulk, part in malakut. He says the numinous is a mystery that is both terrifying and fascinating. And here I'm thinking Jamal, Jalal, right? We have this binary in our understanding of Allah's names, the Jamali names, the Jalali names. Allah is awe-inspiring, Allah is mighty, Allah is other, Allah is distant, but at the same time, Allah is compassionate. Allah is Wadud. Allah is Atuf, Rauf, all of these names of compassion.
When they join, it becomes Kema.
Sorry?
When they join together, it becomes Kema.
All of it becomes
Kema.
Kamal. All of it becomes Kamal. Yes, absolutely.
When I first learned about the word terrific, it was kind of different experience, like terrific and Jalal.
Terrific.
They
Yeah.
actually match.
People
Yeah,
always
yes.
say it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, or not awesome in America. Did I get it? Did I nail it? Yeah. Where is the? Here's the accent. He claims to be able to do a British accent. Mohammed, do we test him? Maybe tomorrow at dinner or something. We have a demonstration. I can't really do an Australian accent. So the numinous is a mystery that's both terrifying and also fascinating. I remember when my eldest son was small. I might have told you this last time I was here. But I repeat myself a lot, unfortunately. It's the privilege of getting older. I used to hide in the cupboard in the bedroom where Ahmed Aga slept, the cold room, the very, very cold room in our student accommodation. And my son was like 1.5 years, or maybe 2, can't remember. And I used to hide in the cupboard. He used to come in the room and I used to open the cupboard door. And he used to scream, but then he used to run towards me. So he was terrified. And yet he ran towards me because I was his Rabb. Right? For him. So we say to Allah, I run from you to you. Firru minka bika, I think. Or the other way around.
Fafirru ilallah. Right? So escape towards Allah.
But I escape from you to you.
Oh yeah, so
From his.
Yeah.
I find refuge from you and you.
In you.
From your anger to your rahmah.
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't know that before I did this. I did it just because I was a bad parent, possibly, or because I just wanted to make, I didn't want to scare him to death. But it was interesting to see his reaction. Where else would he run? There was no one else in the house. Where else would he run?
Where else would we run?
Yeah, where else would we go? When we're scared of Allah, when we're frightened of our own sins,
Where are you going to go?
where do we hide? There's no hiding place, is there? So, Otto helped. I didn't get through the whole book, so I need to have another go. If we go on to the next slide. So how do we map Otto's understanding onto the Quranic understanding? Because these authors who are writing outside of our tradition can help us a lot. They can help us to, in a sense, hone our own understandings. They can help us check our own understandings. They can enrich our understanding sometimes because even though he's writing from a Christian perspective, there's a saying, a broken clock is correct twice a day, right? So there is always some truth in it. And if you can extract the truth, it helps. So, having read Rudolf Otto for a little while, I tried to understand from a Nursian perspective, an Ustadi perspective, who understands from a Quranic perspective. And so, Ahmed has already used some words, other brothers have already used words which you will see here. So, the essence of Allah, Allah's Dhat, right? We can never know Allah's Dhat. We can, His essence, His Dhat, Zat. We can never know Allah's Zat. We can only know the Asma and the Sifat. Also, we can never know our own Ruh. And Hazrat Ustad says that our Ruh is a manifestation of Allah's Zat. He says it quite clearly. I was shocked when I read it. So the ineffable, unknowable essence of Allah, which is beyond rational demonstration or sense perception, and which can be sensed or glimpsed only defectively. We can't sense or glimpse Allah's Dhat. We can only glimpse His names, and then only reflections of His names. There is a tension, I think, just feel free to correct me or disagree. Because as I said, I'm still working on this. There is a tension between Jamal and Jalal, because Al-Quddus tends to be, in my opinion, one of the Jalali names.
Jalal?
Yes.
You're right, because it's mentioned in those famous 6 names.
From the 30th flash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also Hazrat Ali.
Yes.
So it could be.
Because the Jalali names are very difficult for us to manifest consciously in the way that we can manifest the Jamali names. We usually manifest the Jalali names by the opposite. So Allah is absolutely other, absolutely unlike everything else, but we're not. We're like, we're all similar. We all have 2 eyes, nose, 2 legs. You know, we're all human. We all speak the same language. In this retreat, unless we're breaking the rules. I'm not looking at anyone in particular.
In my view, it's more of Jamal because in the Quddus in 30th Flash, Ustad discusses Quddus in the context of keeping universe clean,
Yes,
immaculate.
It's a Jamali.
So it's
yes,
like one
absolutely.
aspect of beauty is cleanliness
Yes.
and always maintaining the state of
Yes.
cleanliness, shiny. So in that regard,
Yes.
it's more Jamal. it seems to
Absolutely.
me.
You know, Ustad also talks about Borj. The Asma are in a Borj, right? So there is a Borj of, if you say that there is the Borj of Quddus, and then Mutahhir will come into
It's
the Borj of
manifest
Quddus. Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is why I thought there was a tension between Jamal and Jalal, because of he says here, this point concerns one aspect of the divine name, and that aspect is purity. That's how he tells us what Quddus is meant.
And another thing is that, because this is one of the Asma Sitta, and all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially the biggest name, can be a door to open the other names.
Yes.
So it depends on from which aspect you look.
Yes.
If you look from Razak or from Adal, it could be Jalali, it could be Jamali. So it really, like, it's a door. From this door, it could be Jalali or Jamali.
That's the Burj thing, right?
The Borj thing, yes, yeah. I mean, why do the stars exist, right? You've got like, for example, Double Akbar, which is the Great Bear, which everyone can see. Even in Australia, you can see the Great Bear, right? You see stars that we don't get to see, though.
Yeah.
They're upside down though.
Yeah, they're upside down.
That's the issue.
I often think that if you could be far away enough from the Earth, and would Tariq be seen hanging down?
I'm thinking of the Burj example is really nice in that Burj is like outer face of the name,
Yes.
and it's like hidden face can be awe and glory, and then outer face could be like cleanliness,
Yeah, absolutely.
purity.
Absolutely.
So it's like
Absolutely.
every name has awwal, akhir, batin, and
Yes.
zahir. So Burj could be zahir aspect of Quddus,
Yes. Yes.
and the awe and glory could be
Yes.
batin aspect of the
Or
name.
it could be, as Tariq was saying, the umbrella is Quddus, but through it move different names, because the names are always changing. And if you look at the Great Bear, the constellation of the Great Bear, sometimes the moon will pass through it, sometimes the planets will pass through it. So, you know, Ustad is taking his lesson from the heavens when he uses this example of Borj. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Maybe in Sufi works, I don't know. Have you come across it? Anyone? The idea of Buruj, constellations?
Maybe the same name can be manifested in different things in different ways.
Yes.
For example, Qayyum. How can we describe Qayyum? As Jalali or Jamali?
Depends, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Yusuf mentions in the 30th flash, for example, in the universe, Qayyum is manifested as Jalali,
Yes.
but in human, it has been manifested as Jamali.
That's another perspective, yeah.
Would you say the same for Adl as well?
Yeah.
Adl is also, it
Yeah.
can be
Ah, it's the
Jalali.
same, yeah.
If there's
You said
severe
something about
punishment.
Quddus as well. It is a reflection of the entire universe. Maybe you can call that Jalali reflection of Quddus. I don't know.
So there's ulama that have spoken about this at length, and then it's interesting how the Islam incorporates this as well, right? I just learned about this very recently, but they seem to talk about how some of the asma are just fundamental to the others, right?
Yes.
But
yeah,
I don't know how
definitely.
they relate that concept to Jamal and Jalal, which comes exactly from those same ulama. You know? Super interesting.
But some names are relational, aren't they? For example,
Absolutely.
Allah is always
Yeah, exactly.
Basir.
So that's one thing. They say some of them are relational
Yeah.
or understood relation, the others are
Yeah.
So maybe this concept of Burj and like to the discussion we are right now having, like whether it's Jamali or Jalali and all of these, it's just for us to actually get closer of
Yeah.
to understand it.
Yeah.
Like we won't grasp it fully anyway,
No.
and none of those names. Or we are just like trying to make some kind of relationship between them, so like we get closer to understanding
I
it.
think it's for the closeness of understanding, because you can see the stars up in the sky, but you can't get close to them. But you can see more or less what they're doing, and you get an understanding of them. Next slide, please. So Sayyid Nursi's understanding, which is the important thing here. We have to, as I said, be aware that we live in a representational universe. We live in a gallery of names, a gallery of signs. Every sign, everything, every tree, every star, every animal, every human being, every blade of grass, every atom represents something, represents a divine name or a configuration of names. It's important to realize that this corporeal world, this world of flesh and bone and rock and sand and matter, is a reflection of the world which stands above it ontologically. What do I mean? I mean that Malakut is here and Mulk is below. And Mulk is, I don't mean spatially, obviously. Mulk is below. Mulk is the very, very lowest level. It's the level of stuff, right? Of matter and of time and flux and change and transformation and living and dying and all of these things. But above it there is a world which this world represents. So when I said that what is water, we said water represents Rahman. Water in this world is very different to the water in Malakut. Right? And you know this from your dreams. Stuff that happens in your dreams can't happen in this world a lot of the time. So this world is a representation of Malakut.
Then Mulk is the apparent one.
Mulk is Alam Shahada.
Alam Shahada, and the
Yeah.
apparent one. The reality of the Mulk is really the manifestation of the divine names.
Yes, yes, yes,
Then we have to reach this.
yes.
But in order to reach the divine names,
You have to go
then
through
the Mulk must be there.
Yeah, yes, the Mulk
Yeah.
must be there. Yes, yes. A lot of people think that heaven is just a reflection of here, but it's the other way around. Here is a reflection of heaven. This is al-hayat al-dunya. This is the very, very lowest kind of hayat. It's the last level, and the thickest level, and the closest level, which is the corporeal world.
Just said there's a thin line between here and Alam.
Yes.
Very thin.
The Irish and actually the Celts, they talk about thin places. They say there are some places where it seems that the pardeh, the veil between Mulk and Malakut is so thin you could almost poke your finger through it. So if you go to some beautiful, I don't know, if you go to some beautiful scenery, for example, it's a bit reductive because, you know, beauty can be found everywhere. Stunning scenery, or like here, for example, outside, just standing there at Maghreb when the sun is going down. You think that, you know, you
My
poke your finger
paradise.
through and you're in Malakut because you see so much Jamal. So corporeally, our body, you know, these, a friend of mine in England calls it a meat suit. This meat suit that we're wearing. We are in Alam al-Mulk, but spiritually we're in Alam al-Malakut. Your dreams take place in one realm in Alam al-Malakut. Your nafs has a connection with Alam al-Malakut. Your ruh is in Alam al-Malakut. Your lata'if are all in Alam al-Malakut. So Malakut is ontologically prior to Mulk. It comes before it, not in time, but in being, right? Are we getting this? Because if you think of the hand and the shadow of the hand, they are both there at the same time, but one of them is prior to the other. One of them is asr, right? And the hand is prior ontologically. In other words, the hand has actual being. The shadow has relational being. So, malakut is the real deal. Mulk is the shadow. So we need to understand this, to understand what we mean by representation, right? When we say that water represents something, the thing which it represents is prior to water. Water is its reflection. So, Rahmah is reflected as water. One of the things that's reflected from Rahmah is water. We say, when it rains, when it doesn't rain for a long time, like in England where it never rains. But in the places where it doesn't rain for a long time, when it comes, it's Rahmah. It doesn't come from below, it comes from above. Above, Allah is above, but not geographically. But why do we have an above? So that we can know that Allah is above in the spiritual sense, in the ontological sense, not physically. So the visible world is a reflection or representation or symbol of the invisible realm. Next one, please. So Nursi presents most of the divine names representationally, actually. When I first read Risale, because I'd been reading people like Emanuel Swedenborg, who talks about correspondences. He says everything in this world has a correspondence in the next world. And I read the Risale many, many, many years ago when I was only a student and I didn't really get that much the first time round. And I thought, he doesn't talk representationally. But now, all I see is representation. All I see is the way he talks about indicating Allah through this and through this. And for example, food, rizq and razaqiyah, right? Food is a representation of rizq and razaqiyah. Bestowal. Bestowal of the things you need for your existence. Food is only one of them. We often think that food, rizq means food. It doesn't. It means the bestowal or the giving of what you need to continue your existence. And it doesn't just reduce to food. And now we come to where Ahmed preempted us. Nursi's overwhelming emphasis when it comes to Al-Quddus is on purity and cleansing tropes, or symbols of purity. Why do we get angry when people throw rubbish on the grass? Every time I go to Istanbul, I get so annoyed. Istanbul is so beautiful, and then when you go to a park where people have had a barbecue, there's litter everywhere. We get annoyed, and I mean, why do we clean ourselves, Because if you don't, you start to smell, right? And it's not nice. So purity is important, but it's a symbol. Why we wash 5 times a day as Muslims, why we shower, why we take post. These are all symbolic actions. These are all representations. What they're representing the purity of Allah, actually. Because we're supposed to be representing Allah, we are His Khalifa, right? So his overwhelming emphasis in the 30th flash is on purity and cleansing tropes. So as I said, we live in a symbolic universe, everything stands for something else. And there's Ismi Harfi, Mehmet. We're talking today about Ismi Harfi, it's his big thing, Ismi Harfi, one of his projects. Ismi and Harfi, we all know if we've read Risale. Things which point to Allah, everything points to Allah, nothing actually points to itself. Nothing actually points to itself. The only being that points to himself is Allah. Everything else points to him. But we think that things point to themselves. That's unbelief. It's the key of unbelief. It's thinking that something points only to itself. So there is a saying in Christianity, cleanliness is next to godliness.
What?
Cleanliness, being clean. I got told this all the time as a kid by my grandmother. Have you brushed your teeth? Not yet. Cleanliness is next to godliness. And we have in Sahih Muslim, cleanliness is half of faith. Does anyone know is it At-Tahara Lis-Salima? Right, okay. So, what does it mean, cleanliness is half of faith? It doesn't mean that you have to be in the shower every day. Because apparently that's not good for you. Apparently it's not good for you having a shower every day.
Is it?
Apparently, I mean, these things change all the time. But you wash off the oils, there are innate oils that you have, that your body needs. And if you keep scrubbing away at them every day, maybe that's just a lazy person's hypothesis. Excuse, I don't know, but I mean, it could be. It's going to be Googling it. Do we need to shower every day?
But if you don't do taharet, that's why in Western world like it's a norm to have a shower every day because there's no taharet concept. But when you have taharet, maybe
there's no shower every day. Well, yeah, I suppose there is a shower.
It doesn't actually talk about only physical cleanliness. I think more so it talks about spiritual cleanliness in terms of ikhlas. Clean yourself, just do it for the sake of Allah. Sort of thing.
You're getting ahead of us. You're getting ahead now. You're on the next.
Am I?
You're on the next slide.
If we can correlate cleanliness with goodness,
Yes.
and then evil with being impure.
Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
it's like half of our faith is to see the good as good,
Yes.
and then to embrace it,
Yes.
and also to see bad as bad,
Yes.
to
And to
embrace
shun
the
it, and
to
to shun it.
avoid it. So
Yes.
it's like half.
Yes.
اللهم أرنا حق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا باطلا باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه.
No, yeah.
This is why these meetings are important. I'm getting stuff that I haven't heard before.
all recorded.
All recorded.
It's all recorded.
By angels or by
The angels who are at the moment,
He's representing the angels.
definitely. I mean, who is the angels, as you know, they bring Allah's names in a form that we can understand, and this is just one form.
It's a good way of looking at it actually. It reflects the name Hafs,
Yes.
one of the names
Of
of Allah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It records.
Yeah. Next one, please.
Good point.
John, also a meaning came to my mind. Is it is mentioned in many parts of Risale. Ustad said many times the banishing of evil things comes first. I think this is the maybe
Yes.
reason of how
Right.
in
Okay.
my belief.
Yeah.
We have to banish all the bad things.
So you have to clean it first.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like when you want to sit down on a bench and someone's been there and with crumbs and everything, you want to clean it first before you sit down. You don't sit down and have your food and then
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
clean it.
Tehlil is also the same. La ilahe
Yes.
illallah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's also
Mashallah.
Also,
Yes.
clean your
when,
Yes, exactly.
Before starting anything, you have to clean.
when we
all.
are reading Quran, the first A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So these are all kinds of connecting with Al-Quddus actually. So there is from Hazrat Ustad there is a quote. The universe is a vast, constantly working factory, and the globe of the earth a hostel and guest house which is continually filled and emptied. Now I've been in some really, really awful guest houses.
This is not one of them.
MashaAllah. No, as a teenager, I've been in places that I would not wish any of you to ever even see, let alone stay in. But the earth is a beautifully pure and clean guest house, and Allah ensures this. It says generally factories, hostels, and guest houses which are thus used become much dirtied and soiled with filth, debris, and rubbish, and putrid matter accumulates in all parts of them. In real hotels as well as in the hotel of the earth, because we see that lots of waste matter is produced. We ourselves produce waste matter. We don't need to be squeamish about it. They cannot be occupied unless they are kept with care and cleaned and swept. Human beings are overwhelmed by the dirt. The factory of the universe and guest house of the earth, however, are totally pure, clean and spotless, and completely unsoiled, untainted and fresh. There is nothing unnecessary, nothing without benefit, not a random piece of dirt to be found. Not a random piece of dirt to be found. Unless it's in my study at home, when I haven't vacuumed. But It's not random. It's not random. There's a cause. There's a reason why it's there, right? There's no random piece of dirt to be found anywhere. Even if there is apparently, right, it is quickly thrown into a transformation machine and cleaned. So Allah is, all the time there are these upheavals and revolutions happening. In the 9th word it talks about it in the introduction to the 9th word. There are these upheavals and revolutions happening all the time in Malakut, and they're reflected in Mulk, in the Alam al-Mulk. The whole rain cycle, the water cycle, the respiratory system, all of these things, that also is a cleansing system. The white corpuscles in the blood, he also talks about.
With the random, the word random, there was a social psychology experiment conducted around 70s, 80s. I think it was in UK or US. That they look at the people, how they behave regarding to littering behavior. Like they keep an area clean, and then another area like apparently random litterings all around, but very little. So they record in which area people will throw more garbages, in the completely clean area or slightly dirty area, and then they find out that slightly dirty area, less and less people throw garbages, because that littering is the reminder that majority is clean and this one is there. This is something outside the usual. So I shouldn't do that. It's a reminder, like moral compass. A reminder of a moral compass. I shouldn't litter here. But if it is completely clean, we take it for granted. That it's like no moral compass there. Like, how should I judge this is clean or not? Or it should be clean or shouldn't be clean? So the people in the littered area are more conscious of not disposing.
It's interesting because we have a problem in the UK, you probably have it here as well, called fly tipping. Fly tipping means, I didn't know what it meant. Do you know what it means? Do you know why they call it fly tipping?
No.
It's people who've got lots of rubbish, like industrial waste, and they don't know where, it costs money to take it to a place which they call a tip. A tip is where you take it and you get rid of all the rubbish. So what they do, they go into the countryside next to a farm on the side of the road, because in England all of the farms have hedgerows, and there's grass there and it's very beautiful, and they throw all of their rubbish, all of their garbage next to the farm. And recently there was a YouTube video, the farmers get so tired of this, so sick of it, because it looks terrible. So there's old fridges, old broken chairs, desks, pipes, all of this rubbish. The farmers got together, they found the address of the person who was doing the fly tipping. They gathered all of the rubbish from several sites in a big skip, in a big car. They took it to the address of this guy. He had a very nice house. I think he was he was a constructionist. And they emptied all of the rubbish into his garden.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I'll try and find it and circulate. So, the one who looks after the factory of the universe cleans it immaculately. Look at the tides, look at the rain, Look at how we are created, our systems. The cleansing system that we have.
There's no sound.
Sorry?
And there's no sound. Like a vacuum, there's no sound, it's silent.
Oh right, silent. I was no sound. Sorry, I'm getting used to it. So, yes, Ahmed, you were right in the beginning. Ustad focuses on purity and cleanliness in the systems of the universe. This is an amazing teaching tool. How do we know that Allah is munazzah? Through dirt and cleanliness. This is the way Allah teaches us, through examples, Allah teaches us through examples, through symbols. I got shocked, how do we know that Allah is I think I've already mentioned, is Ali, He is above. Because we have a spatial above. So we can sort of know that up there is up there and down here is down here and up there is greater than the here. and more difficult to understand than here, and further away conceptually and geographically than here, Allah is not geographically far, because He is not a jism. So Allah teaches us through these misal, through these examples. We have dirt. Dirt is important, right? Because without dirt you wouldn't know what clean is. And if you don't know what clean is, how do you know Allah is munazzah? You have no concept of munazzah if you don't know what cleanliness is, or purity is. So He uses apparently mundane examples, everyday examples, to evoke sophisticated and complex ideas. This Ustad does this all the time. Quran does it. Quran doesn't talk about the sun as a hot ball of gas that's always, having these atomic explosions. He says it's a lamp. And that immediately makes it familiar, and it immediately shows His compassion. Because if there's no light in this room, you can't function. So what Ustad does, he uses these apparently mundane examples to show us these quite complex ideas. Allah is munazzah. Some of the things you were saying, impervious, right? It's a difficult concept to get your head around. It's a difficult word even to get your head around. Untouchable. How do you? You don't want to touch someone who's dirty, right? If someone's got an open wound, you don't want to touch it. So untouchable.
Transcendence.
Yes, it's difficult. These things are difficult to get across. So Allah's being Al-Quddus becomes much easier to understand when you have easier examples. So He uses everyday examples to express divine truths that cannot be revealed as they are. But they can only be revealed through the deficient filter of human understanding. We're human, and we can't understand transcendent truths and realities as they are. Next one.
Just like the example of Ba'udah in the Quran, Allah SWT says that I will not withdraw from giving an example such as a fly, a small fly.
Absolutely.
With that, He guides some people and He misguides some.
Absolutely.
With that, Ustad also gives apparently profane and mundane examples.
Yes.
That's why we also get this criticism from the secular people.
Yes.
They say that those Nurjud or Risale readers, they all talk about flowers, birds, or seeds, insects. So it is also one indication that Huawei is
what do they do?
So it's like they try to lower the content, the value of the things that we are trying to present in.
Yeah.
So in that regard, Risale is really Quranic way.
Yes, definitely.
Whatever leveled against Quran is nowadays similarly leveled against
absolutely. You're absolutely right. So there's another quote from Ustad here. Its owner, the owner of the factory of the world, is such that he sweeps and cleans and orders the vast factory and extensive palace as though they were small rooms. Considering the size of the huge factory, there is no dirt or rubbish remaining from its filth and debris. Indeed, its cleanness and tidiness are remarkable. If someone does not wash himself and clean his small room for a month, they will become extremely dirty and soiled. That is to say, the cleanliness, purity, and luminosity in this palace of the world arise from a continuous, wise, and diligent cleaning. If it were not for this cleaning, sweeping, and careful tending, in 1 year, all the 100,000 animal species would have been choked on the face of the earth. You know termite, you know what a termite is? In Africa, in certain parts of Africa, they build palaces.
Yeah, it's supremely interesting. And
amazing, amazing. And then the anteater, which is one of the most amazing animals, with this tongue, which is really, really, really long, comes along and with its sharp claws destroys the palace and eats all the termites. Now, if there were no anteaters, after 3 months, Africa would be 2 meters deep in termite. Right? So the anteater is like Hoover, right? The vacuum cleaner. Sucking up the Dyson. Yeah, it's a Dyson. Sucking up the termites. So
they also have this sophisticated. They discovered that they positioned the what's it called the termite mound.
Mound,
right?
yeah.
They position it in such a way so as to receive certain amount of heat during the day and the evening, so that each part of the mound is this, and then it's constructed also, it's positioned a particular way vis-a-vis the sun,
Yeah.
and it is also constructed in a way that allows for ventilation.
It has air conditioning.
Right, so the temperature in some parts is extremely fine-tuned, so to speak,
Yeah.
and in other places so it's really amazing, and it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And then the anteater comes and destroys it.
Yeah.
But this is the
Because
world,
also
this is
following
dunya,
the
this
system.
is how it is, right?
Yeah.
Next one, please. So, examples of cosmic or earthly cleanliness or purity. I don't know these. I mean, my science education was very, very basic. Examples in atmosphere and space. I'm sure people here, lots of scientists in the room.
Black holes.
Sorry?
Black holes.
Black holes.
No, last week I learned the biggest satellite of the in the solar system is Jupiter. Jupiter was functioning as collecting some
Asteroids.
asteroids or things. Yeah.
They were protecting Earth from random asteroids coming in.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I know the atmosphere. You know, due to friction, it doesn't come to the surface of the Earth. The asteroids or anything. But some of the things are collected by Jupiter. Since it has a huge amount and its attraction is higher, therefore it was cleaning.
I also learned about this.
Last week I learned it.
Examples in the animal kingdom, I can think, for example, from a personal experience, like when a fly comes into the house or a spider, spiders particularly.
Oh.
If my daughter's there, a spider, and even one of my sons is terrified of spiders, so when they were smaller, but even now he's grown up, he still doesn't like spiders. I was always spider patrol person. I used to have to go around with a cup and paper to get the spider out, but I used to say I don't want to take the spiders out because spiders eat smaller things in the house. You know, there are smaller things and they're clean. And when the flies come in, I don't like to send them out. But then we've got people. If we've got people there, there's the spray that they go around, and these flies are very maligned things. You know,
Yeah.
Ustad has a whole recital
Yes.
on flies.
What about those little birds that would stand near the ears of the rhino
And clean
would
the ears.
eat the little bugs that come in, or and also in the sea there's fish that live with their mouths open most of the time, and there's this tiny fish that live inside the mouth of this other fish, and eating the morsels of food that are left by, or so cleaning this other, or under the belly of a whale or something, you find also little fish swimming there, cleaning. It's amazing.
Do you have fish therapy here for pedicures in Turkey?
I've never seen one before. In Thailand and Bali I've seen some.
They have some in England. I don't know whether you, Mohammed, have you heard of them? You know the hard skin that you get on your feet?
Yeah,
Talking about those toilet
there is
fishes,
fish
yeah.
therapy.
You put your feet in a bowl and there's fish in them, and the fish eats all the hard skin off your feet.
In Sivas there is such a lake there.
Yes.
In Sivas,
Really?
I experienced it. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Sivas?
In Sivas, yes, I experienced it.
Just don't do it in Brazil in the Amazon because they have piranhas there. come out with no feet.
There is suluk.
Leech.
Does anyone know?
Leech. Yes, leech as well.
To clean the blood.
Absolutely. So examples in the vegetable kingdom, there are lots of examples, I'm sure. I'm not going to give you any because I don't know, but I'm sure there are. Examples in the inanimate or mineral kingdom, stones, when water runs over stone, it becomes clean. So when we go hiking in the summer, the further up the mountain we go, the purer the water is because there's less vegetation, there's no sheep higher up because the sheep are lower down, so you know the sheep haven't dirtied the water. The water's coming over the stone and you can just drink it because the stone's purified. Sand purifies it.
But when rain occurs on the mountains, they goes to the spring sources
Yes.
while passing towards the soil,
Yes.
they purify.
They purify.
And they get also at the same time some minerals
Yes.
from the soil.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you get mineral water. Yeah. And then examples in the human social interpersonal system where there is the most dirt, I think.
Of course.
In the human social interpersonal system, we have street sweepers, we have people who clean, bathrooms and everything, which is a very noble profession. I think everyone should spend time cleaning toilets at some point in their life. This is.
We will have it on Sunday.
I think Muhammad will have gone by then, right? So there are lots of examples. Cleanliness. We know as Muslims, I'm sure that Muslims are the cleanest, in theory, the cleanest people because we are constantly washing.
In theory means not in reality.
Sometimes.
Theoretically, yes.
Supposed to be.
Theoretically. Next one, please. There aren't too many. Ustad gives more examples of cosmic cleansing. He says, furthermore, the corpses of 100,000 animal species and the debris of 200,000 plant species each year on the face of the earth, this is amazing really, resulting from the alternation and struggles of life and death, would have so utterly filthied the land and sea that conscious creatures, rather than loving and delighting in the face of the earth, would have felt disgust and aversion at such ugliness and fled to death and non-existence. Just as a bird cleans its wings with ease and a scribe his pages, so too the wings of the aircraft of the earth and the birds of the heavenly bodies and the pages of the book of the universe are cleaned and made beautiful. Isn't this wonderful? So much so that people who do not consider the infinite beauty of the hereafter and think with belief become lovers of this cleanliness and beauty of the world. They worship it. Right? Those who don't believe in the hereafter, they will go and see a beautiful scene. And if there's no rubbish there, even they get angry, they will get angry if they see, like a Coke can or something thrown on the grass. They will complain. Because they are Ashaq Jamal, right? They are in love with Jamal. Even if they don't love the hereafter, they love the hereafter, but they don't know it.
So when you say that, for example, when we see trash, rubbish on the ground, we get angry. And just like that, this is in a material sense.
Yeah.
But for example, when somebody attributes some things to Allah, and we as Muslims get angry at them, because, for example, they shouldn't. For example, they say that Allah is not all-knowing, or Allah doesn't have qudrat to do this or do that. So we should use our anger to, how can I say?
Because they're impugning Allah's purity, aren't they? They're denying Allah's purity. So when you deny purity, it's like throwing rubbish on a beautiful scene.
But we should not
act on that.
We should not angry on the individuals.
No.
We should try to clean those dirty ideas from their minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, last time after I reading Al-Quddus, every time I go to Ruku and Sujud and say Subhanallah, the kafir comes to my mind all the time. It was not the case in the previous readings.
Next one, please. So what do purity and cleanliness tell us about Allah? Why are purity and cleanliness used as correspondences, symbols? For symbols of divine perfection and the absence of any kind of defect. Again, you were all telling me these definitions. Absence of any kind of defect. Yusuf, I think you mentioned this, right? Or someone did, I can't remember, it doesn't matter. No deficiency, no flaw. In other words, no dirt. Right? If you think of deficiency and flaw as dirt, Allah has no deficiency, no flaw. He's completely pure. Pure from time and space, pure from matter, pure from bodily functions, pure from any kind of human construct. So Allah teaches in analogies, and Hazrat Ustad reflects this in the Risale.
Lack of deficiency corresponds to wholeness, right?
Yes.
In one sense.
Yes.
So holy, the word holy is derived from the whole, W-H-O-L.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Etymologically derived from W-H-O-L.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you. So the bulk of the 30th flash, first point, which is on Al-Quddus, revolves around the notion of purity. So what does purity stand for? Well, you've already told me. You know. God being ineffable, unfathomable, untouchable, impervious, free of flaw, free of deficiency, and also distant from our ability to conceive of Him. He is intimately close to us, but we are distant in our understanding of who He really is in and of Himself. So this is why Ustad uses purity as a central misal, a central metaphor. Next. And again, why? Why clean the cosmos? And Ustad says, that is to say, this palace of the world and the factory of the universe display a greatest manifestation of the divine name of Quddus. Allah cleans the universe so that the universe can reflect Him. He cleans the mirror of the universe so that His Quddusiyah, His holiness, can be reflected.
So cleaning, I understand in another sense, to prune or to trim, that the things should not go to the extremes.
Yes.
Or should not trespass the boundaries,
Yes.
so that it can function or it can be immaculate or work orderly as we see it and appreciate it.
So that the name of Most Holy can be manifested, whereby it is not only the carnivorous cleaners of the seas and the eagles of the land, which obey the commands proceeding from that sacred cleansing, but also its cleansing officials which gather up corpses like worms and ants. Like the red and white blood corpuscles flowing in the body, is it the white ones that attack the disease?
Yeah.
The white ones, right, okay. Obey those sacred commands and do the cleansing in the body's cells. So does breathing purify and cleanse the blood. Ruh. Our ruh must cleanse our nafs, hopefully. Right? And as eyelids obey the command to clean the eye and flies to brush their wings, so the extensive atmosphere and the clouds obey it. The air blows upon the pieces of dust and soil settled on the surface of the earth and cleans it. The sponges of the clouds sprinkle water on the garden of the earth and dampen the dust and soil. Then, so as not to dirty the sky, the air quickly collects the earth's rubbish and withdraws and hides itself with perfect orderliness. It displays the beautiful face and eye of the skies as swept and polished, all sparkling and shining. If you go out into a garden after the rain has fallen, everything smells so clean. So clean and fresh. And as the stars, elements, minerals and plants obey the command to clean, all particles and atoms obey it. They pay attention to cleanliness within the astonishing upheavals of change and transformation. Next one. So this is an example of Allah using condescending language. I don't mean condescending in a pejorative sense. It's not an insult to us. He talks to us at our level. So purity and cleanliness, we understand this because we get dirty, right? We get dirty. If you don't shower for a month, it's a bit of a problem. So these are examples for us to understand that Allah is munazzah. So purity and cleanliness on the scale of the cosmos and in the domain of personal hygiene and interpersonal relationships are markers of divine perfection. So you are reflecting Allah's tanazuh, being munazzah, when you are doing your wudu, when you are taking your ghusl, when you are cleaning your house. It doesn't mean that God is not dirty. We're not talking about literal dirt. You know? It's saying that He's not reachable. he's not touchable, you can't reach him. And he owns many names that we struggle with, right? Al-Qadir, I don't know, this is a mistake. Al-Muntaqim, Al-Mutakabbir, I don't know what this one is, it's a misspelling. Maybe Mumit, maybe I slipped a bit. It should be Mumit, I'm not sure. Next one. So, Al-Quddus is about God's absoluteness and freedom from dirt. By dirt here we mean mistakes, flaws, deficiencies. Allah is pure. Allah doesn't make mistakes. You know?
So Tanzulat, I just remember his dignity and glory requires the causes to be a veil
Yes.
to protect his dignity. So in that regard, the causes, the dirty things, the apparently superficial, ugly things that we see
Yeah.
are attributed to the causes,
Yes, yes.
not to the him.
Yes. But they're necessary because without the dirty things we can't understand the clean.
Yeah.
So the purity in the universe becomes a reflection of Allah's purity and his not being deficient or lacking in any area of his being. Next one. And there's another quote from Ustad here. And as the stars, elements, minerals and plants obey the command to clean, all particles and atoms obey it. They pay attention to cleanliness within the astonishing upheavals of change and transformation. I think I read that before, but this is new. They never congregate anywhere unnecessarily and get in the way. If they do become soiled, they are quickly cleaned. They are impelled by a hand of wisdom to acquire the cleanest, neatest, and most shining states, and the most beautiful, pure, and subtle forms. Thus, this single act, that is, making clean, which is a single truth, is the greatest manifestation of a greatest name. The name of Most Holy, Al-Quddus, which shows itself in the maximum sphere that is throughout the universe. There was, when I was learning how to take wudu, many years ago, someone told me about making the perfect wudu. And I laughed as well. I said, well, just give me the water and just show me how to do it. And he said, no, there's something about the ritual in cleansing. And we all take wudu more or less in the same way. It doesn't matter what mazhab you're from. I would imagine most of us we take wudu in the same way. He said there is an art to taking wudu. I didn't learn that art. I just take wudu. But he said the reason is because it's connected to Quddus. And if you take this perfect wudu, it's as though you are consciously manifesting Allah's purity. Next one, is that the last one? It's a clean.
This is pure.
It's a clean screen.
Pure.
Anyway, thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Jazakumullah. Can I have a small comment?
Yes.
In Risale, Ustad says, I am the student of Risale Nur.
Yes.
And he reads his work several times, as we discussed today. Also in one of the chapter, he says, the works of the Islamic scholars must be transparent and show beneath those works, show and indicate Quran
Yes.
directly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be opaque,
Yes.
and then the sight will be focused on
Yes.
those things.
All those things.
But it must be transparent and directly show and indicate the Quranic verses, Quranic facts. In the text, or we generally refer Nursi work, such kind of things.
Yes. Yeah.
When we say this, in order not Not, but when we say Risale-i Nur, for example,
Yeah.
I prefer
Yes.
this more.
Yes.
Since when we say Nursi, now we are focusing on the individual.
Yes.
But he says, I am the student of Risale-i Nur. And when we say Risale-i Nur, Risale-i Nur just itself is nothing actually, but Risale-i Nur is the Quranic tafsir at that time to the understanding of this age. Therefore, we must always keep in mind and we must give this idea to the audience. Risale-i Nur is always a tafsir and Quranic interpretation. This is my small.
That's helpful. I mean,
I don't know. Does it make sense or not?
it does make sense. Yeah. What we try to do. I mean, as
For
I
example,
said-
Ustad says, in one of the work, if anybody reads Ibn Hajar, for example,
yeah.
while he was reading Ibn Hajar, his focus should not to understand what Ibn Hajar means here.
Yes.
His focus must be
What Quran
to understand what is the meaning of Quran. His focus must be this.
Yeah.
While we are reading Risale, our focus always must be there to understand Quranic meaning.
Very, very, very important.
When we say Ustad Risale Nur, or several times, this is Quranic verse meaning, then we are trying to understand the Quran at that time with Risale Nur. We should try to give that idea to the audience, I think. Thank you so much.
I think you're absolutely right. Nebi, you're absolutely right. Because we're all readers of Risale, I didn't think it was problematic for us to.
I didn't say problematic.
No, I find it is problematic. It is problematic. I'll tell you why. Because there have been times that we, at the very beginning when we were a bit raw, we would say to people who'd never read it, we would say, Nursi says, I don't like saying Nursi to be honest, but that's just my own prejudice. Or sometimes we would say Hazrat Ustad or Ustad, and it sounds as though you're part of a cult, right? So, especially for people who've never encountered the Risale-i Nur. But we realize that there are some occasions where they want to know where this is from.
Yes. Yeah.
So occasionally we do use the name, but we try, mostly, as I said, this is a work in progress, so I will change. And I will take your observation on board. We try not to mention him. But if you don't...
Risale-i Nur, for example.
Yeah, but then they say, who wrote the Risale-i Nur?
Then we can mention
we can
about
tell
it.
them, yes.
Risale-i Nur is the tafsir of
Yes.
Quran at that time,
Yes.
especially to the
Yes.
understanding of this age.
That's a very,
we
it's a
should
very good
mention
way.
this. Yeah.
That's a very good way of introducing it. But we have these shortcomings at the moment, so that we will.
I do not say so.
No, I do. I'm aware of them. I'd like to be able to give a whole lecture without actually using Ustad's name and just saying Risaleh and just saying this is a contemporary tafsir.
Yeah.
But when you're introducing to the audiences that we introduce these things to, they always want the name and who was he and when did he live and all of these things, and you can't not give it.
Yeah, we have to give it.
Yes.
We have to give the reference.
But we don't have to keep.
Yeah. We should not keep always,
That's a good point.
Nursi work,
Yeah.
from Risale-i Nur we should say it.
Yeah.
Then what Risale-i Nur, we must also explain it. But this is Quranic tafsir at that time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Thank you.
In the Laikas, Ustad says that people customarily attribute the properties of the book and work to the persons, to the individuals.
Yeah.
So if the people of misguidance taking advantage of this by failing that person or by showing his
Yeah.
personal imperfections
Yeah.
or his shortcomings, they fail the work that he
Yeah.
produced. That's why he says that I'm like a student like you.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want his person to be put before Risale.
But they still, even if you don't mention his name and they find out, if they want to,
They find out.
if they want to malign him, they will malign him. You know,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that they will do it.
At least we will fulfill his wish. Like he doesn't want to be the focus of attention.
He also says, take ownership of it.
Yeah.
He says to the readers and to the students, take ownership of this book. So one of the things we do is we teach Nursi, Risale theology, without even mentioning Risale Nuri. We've done that before. So it's possible, but I mean it's not easy. Any other questions?
So just before we are going into discussion, can you finish the session with the dua, then we go to the question?
Okay, you want an English dua? Oh Allah, make us understand that this world is a world of representation and that everything that is created by